So you want to learn how to make songs like this and this? Come to the right place. In my last Breakcore video, I went into concepts like music theory. Why? This video is going to be all about sampling. Inspired by comments like this and this. I'm going to be making a second video on how to make your second Breakcore song with samples. Okay, ready? Go. I always link a sample pack for you guys each video. This time the sample pack is Jungle Jungle. This is a huge sample pack, very well known in the drum and bass community. Breakcore is a subgenre of drum and bass. The first thing you're going to want to do, go over to pads. I chose Sign Pad. Once you put your pad on your instrument track, you want to open that puppy up, and it's going to look something like this. Bad. No, we don't want that. Boom. Make sure that's maxed. Make sure that's down. Make sure that's down. Look at that. Nice square. Nice square. Once you get yourself a nice square, you want to lay yourself out a nice intro. For this, I went for like a chromatic upward moving thing. If you don't know what chromatic means, check out this video right here. This will give you all the music theory you need for producing music. So I did a slow chromatic intro. You can do a lot of things for intros. Right here, I just have these notes laid out low. Another thing you could do for intro is drag the pad on here, and then you would go onto that sound, and then you could stretch it, make it really long, so it's like a, maybe pitch it up. It's really up to you. I chose to do the chromatic thing. The reason I chose to do the chromatic thing is because this pad has a very automated sound, arpeggiated. Basically, this pad was super interesting, so I wanted to get all the juice out of the pad that I could. Now, normally, when you're using pads on the piano roll, you want to go over and switch this to stretch. I did resample for this one. The reason I didn't do this is because resample changes the speed. Now, normally, that's really bad, especially when you're making pad chords. You can hear how the different notes are going at different speeds there. I tried to work with it for this song, so it's kind of part of the personality, but if I were you, I would just click stretch. You want to get into the pad chords. Normally you want very simple chord progressions for the pad chords. Something like a 1, 2, 1, 1, 7, 1. Basically, you're going to be going between two chords. So now that you're done with your A section pad, you're going to want to grab yourself a break. First thing I wanted was a very chill break for this intro section. So I went through. That's pretty chill. Now when you drag your drums in, most likely it's not going to be in the right tempo. So what do? Go to this little time thing. Now this is Breakcore. If you wanted to, you could go double time. Don't know why you would do that. Or you could more commonly go half time. Halftime is very common if you want a chill breakcore song. Most breaks are going to be 2 bars, so you want to slide this time thing till it slots into that second bar. Now this is a rule, and there are exceptions to the rule. Just use discretion. If it sounds right, then it sounds right. Now as you can see, I used 2 other breaks for this song. Over here, you have this break, and then down here you have this break. This is the main break. This is doing most of the heavy lifting for the drums. But for now, just have your pads and some drums that fit well with the pads. Now, it wouldn't really be drum and bass music if it didn't have any bass. So, next thing you want to do, boom, bass, and pick yourself a bass. Now, if you don't have an ear for music, you might not want to pick a bass out of here. These basses are going to vary a lot on the note that they actually play. So you might put it on C, but it might be playing something else because the default of the note is something else. So to avoid confusion, what you might want to do is open up Flex, and there's a free pack called Bass Utopia. I chose this bass, which actually came out of the sample pack, but I mean, if it sounds good, it sounds good. So, okay, first thing I did was go to my intro and added bass for the intro. This was simple. It's a chromatic intro, so I just added chromatic bass. Once you get past bass for the intro, you want to do bass for your A section. I actually did bass chords, or at least bass fifths. I went ahead and muted everything that I had done in mixing. So now this is the complete bare bones of what I had laid out at this point. Now it's at this point where you probably want to make yourself a B section. B section just means that you've changed something. You can also call this a bridge. You could also call it whatever you want. Call it Minions from the Despicable Me movie. Personally, I like to write all my sections in one pattern. I have my intro section here, my A section here, my B section here, and I even have a C section when it gets real intense. So for this B section, all I did was play the fifths up a fifth. So instead of stacking C under G, I stacked D on top of G. These are both fifths with each other, circle of fifths. You know, who am I kidding? You watched my video. Now notice how that goes up, and this one went down. And for the C section, basically I just took the fifths, G and D, and added in an A. Okay, so to recap quickly, we went over how to make a pad intro, pad A section, pad B section, how to fit the drums to your track, how to make a bass intro, and bass for your A and B section. Now from here you can do a lot of things. You can go straight to mixing. You could add these final touches like these risers. Here I put 2 risers because it's actually a false something. I'm using risers from the Cymatics EDM Starter Kit. I'll have that linked, I guess. For this C section, I actually bring in all 3 of these breaks. More noise the better, right? I had some automation to the start to go along with the riser. And then I added vocals. The vocals I chose were from the greatest rapper of all time. They sound like this. Now the other thing I added automation to was the shaper box mix level. The biggest downside to the trial version of the program is that you literally can't save projects. So what we're going to do here is recreate this shaper box so I can show you how the plugin works. It's a fun one to play around with out of all of these awesome little things you can do is the time. This is a lot like Gross Beat, but personally I think it's way better. The controls are way more intuitive. You can do all sorts of different things. You can make a whoop-de-whoop. You can make a slidey-lide. You can make a straighty-weighty. Like, you can even make a Gross Beat is a nightmare compared to this, and given that they're both free trials that you can use, this one's just undoubtedly better. So the first thing I normally do is just try to slap on one of these presets for time. As you can see here, I automated my shaper box to where it only comes in during this little breakdown section. So it just makes it super easy to add a lot of variation to the drums. Another reason this plugin is perfect for Breakcore is because you can make it hectic. One way to make it hectic is to add some drive. I like to take this selection tool and tone it down a little bit. I mean, I like it noisy as much as the other guy, but like, if you don't initially like any of these presets, another thing you can do is change the length of the preset and it completely changes the sound. There's a bunch to play with on Shaperbox, so let's just speed run this. So this is going to add panning left and right, having some nice ear candy. is great for
Cheat on
breaking.
speedruns.
Now you can also automate the whip,
I cheat on
which gives it an
speedruns.
awesome sound as well.
Cheat on speedruns.
Alright, something that is vitally important in this genre is spatial mixing. Now we're going to go through each one of these presets, and I'm going to tell you what each thing is doing. Fruity Stereo Enhancer. This is a godsend plugin. Add this full plus. It's going to come like this. And EQ. Everybody knows what EQ does. For this, I just had to bring it down a little bit. Now here I added more stereo enhancer, but this time I did something different. The last one went plus, this one went minus. This is because in this genre, where you have all this spatial stuff going on, it can be really nice to have your main amen break minused, because this gives it like a super sharp sound that splits through the mix. Now, here, I did Fruity Stereo Enhancer, but notice how it sounds super right-leaning. In Stereo Shaper, I boosted the left a little bit. Now, mixing on the pad, this is vitally important. Reverb, important. Very wet signal, a lot of dry signal too. You know, kind of a weird shape. You could do whatever shape you want. It's reverb. Everybody's just playing around. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. Stereo enhancer. If you already have reverb, you don't want to boost the stereo shaping all the way. As you can see, I also have this going to the left a little bit. Like, sounds good, but with this. Last, mixing on the bass. As you can see, mixing on the bass, what I did is I pushed it to the back of the mix. I added more stereo by pushing the phase offset to the right, but also pushing the pan to the right. Last thing to mention about the mix, make sure you have a limiter. A limiter on the master is extremely important. And guess what? That's it. Now, if you want to hear the final song, check out this video. Remember, I have Shaperbox 2 and the sample pack linked below in the description. Thank you for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. I'm trying to prove to my family that I can make it as a YouTuber.